Breaking news, we have broken the status quo. Chaos and peril await in the years to come. At the conclusion of the conflict that began on October 7th, there is a vast and mysterious area known as the future. For Palestinians enduring Israeli occupation, the previous status quo was particularly perilous and unpleasant. Still, I recognized it. After October 7th, it was completely destroyed by the attacks by Hamas and the Israeli response. When war rips at long-held beliefs and forces people to make tough decisions about their future, it can hasten change. Alternately, it forces governments and their populations to fortify their underground shelters in anticipation of the next onslaught. For over 100 years, Jews and Arabs have clashed and even gone to war over who gets to rule the tiny, coveted territory that lies between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea. Assuming the conflict will continue, albeit in a changed form, may be the safest and saddest bet. That is, after all, the standard procedure following any war in the Middle East since Israel's declaration of independence in 1948. Other choices, though, do exist. Some of the main players' arguments are presented here. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. If he has a plan for the day after, Israel's Prime Minister has not revealed it. His Israeli opponents contend that Netanyahu's sole genuine objective is to remain in office and evade conviction on the grave corruption accusations leveled against him. They hold him responsible for the security and intelligence lapses that enabled the October 7th Hamas attacks. Netanyahu campaigned on the platform that he was Israel's sole defender, Mr. Security. Already battered by political unrest within Israel, his reputation was shattered by Hamas. In light of the Prime Minister's general remarks regarding the aftermath of the war, it appears that the occupation of Gaza will persist, presuming Israel is able to declare victory. While they have not provided any specifics, Israeli officials have allegedly discussed the possibility of establishing buffer zones along the border, assuming they can be located. Netanyahu has ruled out the possibility of foreign peacekeepers playing a role. Arab nations will not clean the mess that Israel has created, according to Jordan's Foreign Minister Ayman Safadi. Arab forces will not deploy to Gaza. Not a soul. We will not be perceived as adversaries. Additionally, Netanyahu has rejected U.S. President Joe Biden's proposal to oust Hamas and install President Mahmoud Abbas as Palestinian Authority. Despite the PA's recognition of Israel and security cooperation with it, Netanyahu asserts that it cannot be trusted and supports terrorism. Biden, Joe. The future that President Biden sees is vastly different from the one that Benjamin Netanyahu envisions. The Israeli people continue to receive substantial emotional, diplomatic, and military support from Biden. During his visit, he hugged the hostages' families and gave orders to U.S. diplomats to use the veto to prevent UN Security Council resolutions that would establish a ceasefire. In addition to sending Israel a plethora of weaponry, Biden also directed 2 aircraft carrier strike groups to the area. In exchange, the President of the United States wants Israel to restart the peace process. Eventually, he would like the Palestinian Authority, PA, to govern Gaza, and he hopes that Israel will come to terms with the idea of a Palestinian state alongside Israel. It is also agreed upon by Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas. Since October 7th, he has mostly observed from the sidelines. The president called for a post-war peace conference to negotiate a political settlement that would pave the way for the creation of a Palestinian state. In an unusual interview he gave to Reuters this week, since the early 1990s, the two-state solution has been the stated goal of the United States and its Western allies. It was never going to happen, despite years of talks. Since the peace process failed over 25 years ago, the phrase has remained a meaningless slogan. Since only a political resolution can put a stop to the fighting, Biden is right to want to bring it back. Last week, Vice President Kamala Harris was dispatched by Biden to Dubai to deliver a speech outlining American boundaries regarding Gaza. The following day, she outlined 5 guiding principles. No forcible displacement, no reoccupation, no siege or blockade, no reduction in territory, and no use of Gaza as a platform for terrorism. We want to see a unified Gaza and West Bank under the Palestinian Authority, and Palestinian voices and aspirations must be at the center of this work. Benjamin Netanyahu has persistently sought to undermine Palestinian independence both while in and out of office. We can assume he will not budge from his position. During his tenure as prime minister, the two-state solution will not be revived. Simcha Rotman. Simcha Rotman is a well-known member of Israel's parliament and an extremist with the religious Zionist party. I went to see him at the Knesset. Rotman and other extreme Jewish nationalists are crucial to Benjamin Netanyahu's administration. Their influence stems from the dynamic Jewish settlement movement that took place on the seized land in 1967. Following their triumph, a number of Israelis were determined to expand the Zionist enterprise into the newly captured Palestinian territories, which included the Gaza Strip and the West Bank, including East Jerusalem. Their success since 1967 has been remarkable, even though they were compelled to leave Gaza when Israel withdrew in 2005. Approximately 700,000 Jewish Israelis currently call the occupied West Bank, which includes East Jerusalem, home. The enterprise of the settler leaders is at the center of Israeli politics, and they have cabinet positions. Jewish nationalists view the current conflict between Israel and Hamas as their greatest chance since 1967, when Israel defeated all of its Arab neighbors in a six-day war. Israel has vowed to destroy Hamas once and for all. Palestinian farmers have been unable to harvest olives or tend to their fields since October 7 due to armed settlers in the West Bank who are supported by soldiers and police. Illegally, according to Israeli and international law, settlers have built roads and attempted to further entrench themselves by consolidating outposts. There are posters all over town calling for the expulsion of Jewish settlers from Gaza. The settlers have also broken into Palestinian houses and murdered Palestinians. Near Hebron, in the middle of the night, bulldozer-wielding men arrived to level the small village of Kirbet Zanuta. Armed and aggressive settlers had already driven 200 Palestinians from the area. The illegal settlement of civilians by an occupying power in occupied territory is a violation of international law. According to Israel, the law is irrelevant. Occupation is not the word. Simcha Rotman informed me during my time at the Knesset, occupying your own land is not allowed. Land belonging to Israel does not make Israel an occupier there. In the eyes of Jewish nationalists like Simcha Rotman, Gaza is an integral component of Israel. We must guarantee that the Israel Defense Forces, IDF, are the sole entities responsible for safeguarding Israeli territory. No matter how evocative its name, we will not tolerate any terrorist organization. Imagine it's Hamas. Who would Fatah be? Makes no difference. We will not allow the terrorist group to dictate how we live our lives. Barghouti, Mustafa. Mustafa Barghouti is expected to seek the presidency in the event that the Palestinian elections take place following the end of the war on October 7. He has served as the Palestine National Initiative's Secretary General. Its goal is to provide an alternative to the Islamist fanatics of Hamas and the corrupt and inept Fatah faction headed by President Mahmoud Abbas, positioning itself to become the third political force in Palestinian affairs. Although he prefers nonviolent resistance, Barghouti thinks it is legitimate and legal to resist occupation. Israel is using the war to crush not only Hamas but also the idea of Palestinian independence and freedom, according to Mustafa Barghouti, who told me this in his office in Ramallah on the West Bank. For Barghouti and many other Palestinians, the current situation is a chilling reminder of the 1948 events that led to Israel's independence and the forced displacement of over 700,000 Palestinians from their homes in the territory that would later become Israel. The catastrophe is what the Palestinians call it, and they think Israel wants it to happen again. As a horrific war crime, I am certain that their primary objective from the start was the ethnic cleansing of Gaza. I mean, completely ethnic cleansing. They were also trying to force people to evacuate to Egypt. I believe their next objective will be to attempt ethnic cleansing in the West Bank and coerce its inhabitants into joining them if they succeed. If they fail to ethnically cleanse all Gazans, I am sure that Netanyahu's plan B is to annex Gaza City and the north of Gaza completely to Israel and claim it as a security area. According to Barghouti, Israel's long-term troop presence in Gaza bodes poorly. Israel attempted that previously, and it was unsuccessful. And they will not stand for the opposition to their occupation. That is why ethnic cleansing is truly Netanyahu's objective. Without civilians, he seeks military rule over Gaza. With so many people there, Gaza is simply unmanageable, and he knows it. A democratic Palestinian state should include Gaza. According to Barghouti, we Palestinians are mature adults. No one's patronage is required of us. Also, no other nation has the right to dictate our internal policies. It appears that there will be additional chapters to this crisis. Israel now has more time to wage war due to the U.S. veto of the latest UN Security Council ceasefire resolution. However, the extension is not permanent, and Biden's continued backing of Israel will have political consequences in the United States during the upcoming election year. Even among the Democratic Party's most powerful members, he faces opposition from the younger voters whose support he so desperately needs. The fact that Israel continues to disregard the Biden administration's repeated demands that it safeguard civilians and adhere to the rules of war is already causing significant discomfort. The resounding triumph that Benjamin Netanyahu has pledged may be difficult for Israel to accomplish. He established an extremely high standard for success, demanding the complete and total destruction of Hamas's military and political capabilities. Even with the help of American resupply, Israel's massive military might has not been able to eliminate Hamas fighting capabilities. Much of the Palestinian population believes in the Islamist nationalist ideology of Hamas. In many cases, guns serve to bolster rather than dismantle ideas. Chaos and peril await in the years to come. Withdrawal from the Gaza conflict will be messy.